Morning class. Beta, there are some doubts by the students. So I'm taking this video lecture for doubts only, and through this lecture I'll try to revise the concept of Coulomb's law and electric field once again, because nowadays we are doing electrical potential energy. So let we have a quick revision of Coulomb's law and electric field through the questions we are going to discuss today. So get ready with your copy and pen, because we are going to discuss really important tricky questions, beta. So Jia, here is your doubt. You ask me electric field of charged disk conducting or not conducting. So I am explaining how to find electric field of a charged disk at a point on its axis. Now take a disk. You can take the example of this disk. We can take this as a disk, right? Now here it's a disk, and we have to find the electric field at its axis, right? So let me first find what are the things known to us. The charge density of the disk is sigma, that is surface charge density, because disk has surface. Surface charge density is sigma coulomb per meter squared. Then the radius of the disk is capital R, and we have to find the electric field of this charged disk at distance x, say. Now let we take a small element of this disk. Here comes the first step of the solution. Let we take a small element of the disk which is at, or you can say the element is of radius small r, and thickness of this element is dr. Now tell me children, are you getting this first step? Now from this element, first you see this element is actually a ring. Just look at this element of the disk, it's a ring. Now let we have two elements at the two diametrically opposite ends of this ring which we have taken as element of the disk. Due to these two elements, the electric field at point O will be, due to this element, the electric field will be in this direction, and due to this field, electric field will be in this direction. Do you remember that we take here a 1 coulomb charge plus 1 coulomb charge, and whatever is the direction of force between this element and this 1 coulomb charge, that will be the direction of the field. Recall it. Now resolve these two electric field due to this element and this element into components mutually perpendicular. The yellow field has these two components and the red field has these two components. Now you can see through symmetry that these two components are getting cancelled. I am talking about the ring element. These two components are getting cancelled. So due to this ring, the net field at point O is only cos component. Actually, we have already discussed the electric field of a ring at the point on its axis, because this is in the syllabus of the board. although this derivation is never being asked, but this is in your syllabus. And then we calculated effective field due to these two elements dl, these two elements of length dl. Electric field was, effective field was the cos component only. Then we calculated the electric field of the total ring by integrating this component due to one element, small element dl only. Then substitute the value of dE. This dl element, we can take the charge on this dl element to be dq. So what will be the electric field due to charge dq? K dq upon this distance r square. See, this distance r square. And then cos theta. See, this is 90-degree angle. So cos theta will be base upon hypotenuse. So x upon r, where r is r square plus x square under root. Substituting these values, and you remember k is 1 upon 4 pi epsilon naught. Now dq, since the ring of length 2 pi r is having charge q, so length L of the element will have charge q upon 2 pi r into dl. So substituting the charge dq of the charge element here, we get q upon 2 pi r into dl, this k, x, and this is r cube. After that, integration k, q, 2 pi r, x upon r cube dl. Now just look at the situation. This x is a constant distance for the particular point from the ring. This small r is also a constant because r and x are constant. So here actually we have all the terms constant. So take them out and we are left with dl. And this dl will become kqx upon 2 pi r cube, and this dl will become 2 pi capital R, that is the circumference of the ring of radius r. Then solve it and we were left with the electric field of a charged ring at its axis, kqx upon r square plus x square to the power 3 by 2, where x is distance of point from the axis, from the center of the ring and on the axis, and capital R is radius of the ring. So this is just revision of the electric field at the axis of the ring. Now we have to use this formula directly for the element which is a ring of the disk. So let me write here k q x upon r square plus x square. Now here r is the radius of the ring, which in our case is small r, right? So first we have written the electric field due to the element of the disk, which is a ring. Then dq is the charge on this element. Charge on this element can be written as surface charge density into the area of the element. You can understand it as, if area of the disk is A, then the charge on the disk is Q. So if the area of the ring is dA, then for that region only the charge should be Q by A into dA, where Q by A is sigma. All of you are getting how we got this sigma dA? So now sigma is the charge density, it is given in the question, but dA, just look at the ring. 2 pi r is the circumference and dr is the thickness. So area of this element ring should be circumference into thickness. 2 pi r into dr should be area of the element. Getting it? So dE is, this is dE. dE is K. In place of dq, substitute the value of dq, this x and this value here. Right? Now we got the electric field due to this element ring of the disk. So for the whole ring, electric field must be integration of this expression. Right? So let we first cancel out whatever is being cancelled. For example, here see, pi will get cancelled and this 2 will cancel this 4, and here we are left with 2 only. So we will carry the expression dE as sigma r dr x upon 2 epsilon naught x square plus r square to the power 3 by 2. So integrating it and taking all the constant terms out. Now just check out only this small r. X is a constant, capital R is a constant, sigma is a constant. Only this r is variable. If we are at the center, then this r will be 0, and if we take this element at the center, then this small r will be 0, and if we take this element at the edge of the disk, periphery of the disk, then this small r will become capital R. This is the way how we decide the lower and upper limit. So only small r is a variable and rest all the things are constant. So we have taken out all the things out of integration, and only this expression dr upon x square plus r square to the power 3 by 2 is left in the integration. Now here comes the key point. How to integrate this expression? It's very easy. Bio student, don't get scared. Although in NEET question paper, I can assure you that you are not going to deal with this type of question, because it's not in your syllabus of the board, and I don't think that this type of pure mathematical question will be asked in the NEET paper. But still, if you want and you are asking me the doubt, I can explain you. So let me see how to integrate this. X square plus r square, let we take it equal to a variable t square. This is the way how this type of integration is being solved. So we take this as t square. Now differentiate this whole partially. Differentiate it because we want the value of dr. देखो, जब आप एक्स स्क्वायर प्लस आर स्क्वायर की जगह एक वेरिएबल टी स्क्वायर रख रहे हो, तो आपको इस वेरिएबल का जो डी आर है वो भी चेंज करना होगा टी के टर्म्स में. तो आप इसको डिफरेंशिएट करो. ठीक है. अब अगर आप इसको डिफरेंशिएट करो तो जैसे आर स्क्वायर को अगर आप आर के रिस्पेक्ट में डिफरेंशिएट करो तो क्या होगा. अब बायो वाले बच्चे, मैथ्स वाले बच्चों को ये ऑलरेडी पता है, पर बायो वाले बच्चों को अगर मैं सिखाऊं कि इसको कैसे डिफरेंशिएट कर रहे हैं, तो अगर आप आर स्क्वायर को आर के रिस्पेक्ट में डिफरेंशिएट करो तो क्या मिलेगा. 2r मिलेगा या नहीं मिलेगा. तो डी ऑफ आर स्क्वायर को अगर तुम जानना चाहो कि क्या है, तो ये डी आर इधर ले आओ, तो आपको मिलेगा 2r dr। देखो इतनी बात समझ आई तुमको। अब एक्स स्क्वायर को देखो, एक्स एक कांस्टेंट है, तो आप इसको डिफरेंशिएट करो, और डिफरेंशिएशन का मतलब है आप इसका चेंज विद रिस्पेक्ट टू सम अदर वेरिएबल निकाल रहे हो। जो एक कांस्टेंट है उसका चेंज हो ही कहाँ रहा है, तो डी एक्स स्क्वायर तो ज़ीरो, ये टर्म तो पूरे एक्सप्रेशन में रहेगा ही नहीं। अब आप टी स्क्वायर को देखो, अगर आप इसको टी के रिस्पेक्ट में डिफरेंशिएट करो तो आपको क्या मिलेगा, 2t। याद है ना, x टू द पावर n इज nx टू द पावर n-1। अब अगर मैं कहूँ कि dt स्क्वायर कितना होगा, तो आप क्या कहोगे, 2t dt। ठीक, तो अब इसको मैं पूरा पूरा लिखूं कि डिफरेंशिएटिंग दिस एक्सप्रेशन d यानी डिफरेंशिएशन ऑफ एक्स स्क्वायर प्लस आर स्क्वायर इज इक्वल टू टी स्क्वायर। तो पहला टर्म तो ज़ीरो और दूसरा डिफरेंशिएट कर रहे हैं आप आर के रिस्पेक्ट में, आर स्क्वायर को डिफरेंशिएट कर रहे हैं आर के रिस्पेक्ट में, और टी स्क्वायर को डिफरेंशिएट कर रहे हैं आप टी के रिस्पेक्ट में। तो डी आर स्क्वायर कितना मिला, 2r dr, और डी टी स्क्वायर कितना मिला, 2t dt। तो यहाँ हमने लिखा 2r dr इज इक्वल टू 2t dt। 2 गया, r dr इज इक्वल टू t dt। तो पहले आपने ये पूरा एक्सप्लेनेशन बायो वाले बच्चों के लिए है, और उसके बाद आपने यहाँ पर जब टी स्क्वायर लिखा था तो फिर इसको डिफरेंशिएट किया, मैंने पूरा प्रोसेस समझाया, 2 चला गया, आर डी आर इज, तो हम लोग सब्सटीट्यूट कर देंगे आर डी आर की जगह टी डी टी। ठीक है, तो जब सब्सटीट्यूट कर दिया तो देखो क्या मिला हमको, सिग्मा x टू एप्सिलॉन नॉट एज इट इज़ लिख दिया, आर डी आर की जगह आपने लिखा टी डी टी, और एक्स स्क्वायर प्लस आर स्क्वायर की जगह बेटा लिख दिया टी स्क्वायर टू द पावर 3/2। अब इसको जब सिंप्लीफाई करोगे तो ये टी क्यूब बचेगा, और ये टी इसे कैंसिल करेगा तो टी स्क्वायर बचेगा। अब 1/t स्क्वायर, वैसे तो लोअर और अपर लिमिट जो हैं वो यहाँ पर जब आपने लिखा था तो आर डी आर के लिए थी, जब हमने वेरिएबल को सब्स्टिट्यूट किया है टी स्क्वायर के टर्म्स में, तो ये जो लिमिट्स हैं इन्हें भी चेंज करते हैं अकॉर्डिंग टू दिस इक्वेशन। लेकिन मुझे इसकी ज़रूरत नहीं लगती, क्योंकि पहले हम पूरा इंटीग्रेशन सॉल्व कर लेंगे और फिर टी की जगह इसकी जो ओरिजिनल वैल्यू है वो रख के तब ये ओरिजिनल लिमिट्स सब्स्टिट्यूट करेंगे, जैसा कि रिज़ल्ट में करते हैं। तो यहाँ पर देखो, जब हमें 1/t स्क्वायर मिला था तो इसका डिफरेंस, इसका इंटीग्रेशन होता है -1/t। आई होप कि अब बच्चों को ये बात पता है। तो -1/t में हमने सब्स्टिट्यूट कर दिया t की वैल्यू, और t की वैल्यू क्या थी बेटा, t की वैल्यू थी √x² प्लस r² -1/t। अब पहले r की जगह आप कैपिटल R रखोगे और फिर r की जगह 0 रखोगे, वैल्यू सब्स्टिट्यूट करेंगे तो हमको सॉल्व करने के बाद ये एक्सप्रेशन मिलेगा। अब इस एक्सप्रेशन में 1/x को अगर कॉमन ले लो तो आपके पास बचेगा ये एक्सप्रेशन। ये x कॉमन लेने की वजह से आप हर टर्म को, जिन बच्चों को कन्फ्यूज़न है या मैथमेटिक्स में दिक्कत आती, मैं बता दूं, कॉमन लेने का मतलब आप जिस टर्म को कॉमन ले रहे हैं उस टर्म से आप इस टर्म को भी डिवाइड करिए और इस टर्म को भी डिवाइड करिए। इस टर्म को जब 1/x से डिवाइड करेंगे तो सिर्फ 1 बचेगा, जब इस टर्म को डिवाइड करेंगे तो 1/x से डिवाइड करेंगे तो x ऊपर चला जाएगा। तो लिमिट सब्स्टिट्यूट करा, ये सब वैल्यूज़ निकाल कर फाइनली देखो हमको क्या मिलता है, सिग्मा/2 एप्सिलॉन नॉट 1 माइनस 1 अपॉन 1 प्लस आर स्क्वायर अपॉन एक्स स्क्वायर अंडर रूट। अब क्या करेंगे, अब हम इसे एनालाइज करेंगे। ये तो डिस्क की इलेक्ट्रिक फील्ड है, लेकिन इसको एनालाइज करने से हमको एक चीज़ क्लियर होगी जो हमको अच्छी लगेगी समझनी। क्या? अगर आप सोचो कि ये जो पॉइंट P है, ये जो डिस्क का पॉइंट P है बेटा, P मतलब O है जो, वो अगर इस डिस्क के बहुत पास हो, यानी x बहुत छोटा हो, यानी x कैपिटल R के कंपैरिजन में बहुत छोटा हो। मान लो कि यहाँ पर आप एक छोटी सी चींटी बन के बैठ जाओ। अब ये चींटी अगर इस डिस्क के बहुत पास है तो आपके लिए यानी ऑब्जर्वर के लिए ये डिस्क कैसी हो जाएगी, इनफाइनाइट एरिया की हो जाएगी। तो अगर आप ये कंडीशन मैथमेटिकली रखो तो आपको पता चलेगा कि हमने वही एक्सप्रेशन पा लिया जो हमने इनफाइनाइट शीट का पाया था। अगर r x से बहुत बड़ा है तो r अपॉन x 1 से बहुत बड़ा हो जाएगा, यानी r अपॉन एक्स स्क्वायर और भी ज़्यादा बड़ा हो जाएगा। अगर डिनोमिनेटर इतना बड़ा हो जाएगा तो 1 अपॉन वेरी लार्ज डिनोमिनेटर बहुत छोटा हो जाएगा, टेंडिंग टू 0। तो इस कंडीशन के लिए हमारा ये टर्म गायब हो जाएगा और आपके पास बचेगा सिग्मा अपॉन 2 एप्सिलॉन नॉट केवल। बात समझ आ रही बेटा? तो सिग्मा अपॉन 2 एप्सिलॉन नॉट किसकी फील्ड है? चार्ज्ड शीट ऑफ इनफाइनाइट एरिया। याद आया कुछ? तो डिस्क की फील्ड और डिस्क के खास कंडीशन में जो फील्ड है वो वही हो जाएगी जो एक चार्ज्ड इनफाइनाइट शीट की होती है। अब जो उस समय जब आपने चार्ज शीट को डिस्कस किया था तो आपने ये भी डिस्कस किया था कि अगर वो शीट नॉन कंडक्टिंग ना होकर कंडक्टिंग हो तो तुम्हें पता है कि जब हम किसी कंडक्टिंग शीट पर एक चार्ज देंगे तो वो दोनों तरफ डिवाइड हो जाएगा। तो अगर मैंने इसको Q चार्ज दिया तो आधा इधर रहेगा आधा नीचे, तो इसकी चार्ज डेंसिटी, सरफेस चार्ज डेंसिटी कितनी हो जाएगी? Q/2 अपॉन A। अगर Q/2 अपॉन A हुई सरफेस चार्ज डेंसिटी तो वो सिग्मा क्या है? Q/A। जबकि आपकी चार्ज डेंसिटी कितनी हुई कंडक्टिंग शीट में? Q/2A यानी जस्ट हाफ। So if you want same charge density, surface charge density Q/A, then actually you have to provide it charge 2Q. Then Q will remain at this side and Q will remain at this side. And you will have surface charge density Q/A here, Q/A back side. So actually if this sheet or this disc is not non-conducting disc, but it is a conducting disc, then you have to provide twice the charge as compared to the case of non-conducting disc. So if you are giving charge double, then obviously at point O field will be doubled. So whatever is the expression for charged disc non-conducting, in case of conducting disc the charge since charge is double, so the field will also be doubled. Getting the point? So for non-conducting disc you are having the field equal to this value, and if it is conducting sheet then the field will be just doubled. That means the 2 will get disappeared. And you know that in case of infinite sheet, if it is non-conducting we are having field sigma upon 2 epsilon naught, and if it is conducting we are having sigma upon epsilon naught, because in conducting sheet to find the same charge density sigma we have to provide double charge to the sheet. Is it clear beta? Now let me discuss one more question. It's question number 11 of Irodov. Although neither for mains nor for NEET, and of course not for board, you don't have to solve Irodov. For physics, boards, ISC boards, Newton physics, and for mains, HC Verma and previous year question paper. And if still you have time, then NCERT. And then you can go for any other book if still you have time. Otherwise, this much and revision of this much will be sufficient for good score in mains. But I have taken this question because this question was interesting, and since I have to revise the concept of Coulomb's law and the questions and all the formula, so I have taken this question. Let me see what is the question. A thin charged ring of radius r is charged and a long uniformly charged wire is placed along its axis as shown in the diagram. Find force between the two. Now you know that Coulomb's law is applicable for 2 point charges. But here this is ring and this is charged wire. Neither this nor this is point charge. So since the question was interesting, so I thought I should discuss this question with you. So let me start our solution. Let me take both the things to be positively charged, right? Now, do you remember what is the electric field of a charged wire of finite size? The electric field of wire of finite size. Again, you have to remember these formulas. So that is why I took this question, because I want you to recall these formula. The wire has, if this wire is of finite size, then it has electric field in the form of two components. Perpendicular component, which is perpendicular to the length of wire, and parallel component, which is parallel to length of wire. And the parallel component is actually net field due to this part and this part. This part will have its field in upward direction. This part will have field in downward direction. This we have already done. You can go to the previous classes. And whichever is the larger part, that will dominate, and the net field will be in the direction of that field. If we take this, that is theta 1 is greater than theta 2. If theta 1 is greater than theta 2, then this part will dominate and the net field will be in this direction. Getting the point, beta? So let me see that this formula, when applied to semi-infinite wire. Semi-infinite wire means this is finite wire. Now semi-infinite wire means this end is visible and the other end is not visible. Other end is going to infinity. And we have to find the field from this end at distance d, say at this point. So if this end is going to infinity, this is semi-infinite wire. And for this wire, theta 1 will become 90 and theta 2 will become 0. Since I have already discussed it, so I am not explaining it more. And finally, the formula which you should remember all the time is that for semi-infinite wire, the E perpendicular comes to be k lambda by d and E parallel comes to be k lambda by d, and the direction is E perpendicular is no problem, perpendicular to the length of the wire, and E parallel will be, if the wire is in upward part, then E parallel will be downward. Clear? So semi-infinite wire is going to help us here. Why? Because see, if I want to get the force between the two, then I have two options. One, take element of this wire. Now it's a point charge, and then solve it for the ring. That what is electric field of ring at this point? Whatever is electric field of the ring at this point, and we know the electric field of the ring at the axis. And then we can use the formula F is element's charge into electric field. So one way is consider the element of the wire, find the field of the ring here, and then multiply this field with the charge of the element to get TF, and then integrate it to get F. This is one way. And the other way is that get the element of the ring. Find the electric field of the wire, semi-infinite wire. You can see that this end is going to infinity. That is already given in the question. A long uniformly charged wire which is placed according to the given diagram. And in the diagram, one end is visible, but the other end is going to infinity. It's a long wire. So get the semi-infinite wire's field at the element of the ring. You know that for the wire, you have the component of the field, perpendicular and parallel component. And fortunately, it's quite simple for the semi-infinite wire, k lambda upon d. And d here is r, you can see. And the same with this parallel component, k lambda upon d. So fortunately, it's easy to learn. These are the two equal value components. Now what is the important point? That just take another element diametrically opposite here. Here also we have the field of the long wire, semi-infinite wire, E perpendicular in this direction for this side, in this direction for this side, and E parallel. You know, if the wire is at this side of the point, this end, then field will be towards this side of this end. We have already discussed the field of the semi-infinite wire. Now you can see that due to symmetry, these two components get cancelled. So only this component is left as the effective field of the long wire. So the field of this field, effective field, E perpendicular component gets cancelled for the two diametrically opposite elements of the ring. So net field on the ring is only the parallel component of the field on the ring and due to semi-infinite wire. Since it is only parallel component, so if dq is the charge on the element of the ring, then force due to wire on the element of the ring will be dq into E parallel, which is the field of the wire at that element. So if this is force on element of the ring, then force on whole ring will be integral of this value, and substitute the value. Since E parallel is same for all the elements, so we are directly integrating. Now substitute the value of E parallel. E parallel is k lambda upon d, and E parallel is same for all the elements, so actually it is a constant and it will be taken out of the integration. So what will be left? It will be left as E parallel is constant and you are left with integral dq, and integral dq means charge on the whole ring, and charge on the whole ring is q. So force on the ring due to semi-infinite wire is charge of the ring into field of the wire. So the value will be this much. So although it's a lengthy question, but question is not difficult, so I just want to explain it so that you can have another dimension to think about the problem and its solution. So now these two questions I am leaving you to think about these two questions, solve it by yourself, pause the video wherever required and do your calculation along with me. And in the next class I am going to be back to my topic electric potential energy and potential. So till then beta, all the best. मेहनत करो और सपने देखना नहीं छोड़ो, कभी निराश नहीं होना, चाहे असफलता मिले चाहे कई बार मिले, लेकिन निराश नहीं होना है, ये मेरा एक्सपीरियंस है। अगर आप निराश नहीं होंगे तो आपको जीतना ही है। ऑल द बेस्ट।